We need to protect our land, our water. Even the animals is really important in our culture. Making sure for generations after us that this land will still be healthy. We're going to have to be the people, the protectors of the land.
We look out around us and there are trees growing. You might look at it and say, well, what's the problem? There's trees everywhere. The forest can be in a critical state of decline and it may not look like it. And a lot of what Wahkohtowin does is informed by communities, informed by community members and elders that are saying the health of the forests, like our moose populations are going down. We think it's because of the spraying and because of the over-harvesting. We take that seriously and we try and bring, resources and expertise to address these topics. Wahkohtowin's owner nations are advocating for rights in traditional use territories that are connected to broadly categorized as nature-based projects. So these would be carbon projects, biodiversity projects, conservation projects. Wahkohtowin's partnership with Mikro-Tek and the advancement of this mycorrhizal project has application across Canada, not just for growing trees better, for timber harvest. It's also very, very relevant for restoration.
At Mikro-Tek, it's a biotech facility. It's located in Timmins. And what we do is we grow mycorrhizal inoculants. What they are is symbiotic microorganisms that are on the roots and in the soil on most plants worldwide. In our case, we mostly work with reforestation seedlings on forestry sites.
The mushrooms that you see on top of the forest soil are all connected to a web underground. The organism lives underground. The mushroom is the fruiting body. So the mycorrhizal fungi that we're inoculating, there's a collection in the field, there's an isolation in the lab. It's created and built in aseptic conditions. After isolation, it goes into the grow room. And so after it's grown and it's matured, it's harvested and stabilized and it's kept in a freezer. And then when the team is ready to inoculate at the tree nurseries, so tree nurseries across the country have millions and millions of trees growing, the team goes, chop them up in a blender and apply through the watering system.
But the whole reason we started to do this is to grow the seedling faster. Ones to get, better survival and more growth. When you have the right soil fungal culture, the right mycorrhizal culture, those plants survive because they have an extended root system. We started a project about 25 years ago. When we first started Mikro-Tek. We wanted to have inoculated seedlings with their mycorrhizal fungi and the non-inoculated seedlings. And we wanted to measure the survival rate. And then after that, we wanted to measure the growth rate. We planted 10 million seedlings across Northern Ontario, or across Canada really, the majority of them in Northern Ontario. So we found after following those for 25 years, we just did a remeasurement of all those plots the last 2 years. We had 30% more biomass. That means that those seedlings that were planted had better access to nutrients and moisture, so they grew faster. It's part of the projects we're working on with Wahkohtowin, is to commercialize these technologies in the forestry sector, with the idea of enhancing carbon sequestration in the forest and using the funds made through the carbon sequestration process to fund more inoculations.
We initiated the Sustainable Development Technology Program, to move to commercialization. It was also to legitimately prove the technology worked. It actually created a carbon biomass increase per hectare. And so over a 2-year period, we did the data collection and we handed the analysis over to the provincial and federal government's research scientists who verified it for us. We gave them the data, they crunched the numbers, and then there's the proof. So from there, we can run that through a carbon model and then project that over the life of a forest stand and then figure out those claims over the periods. And we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. If we can continue to inoculate up to the 100, 250, 300 million seedlings a year across Canada, nature-based financing for First Nations as it relates to biodiversity and conservation and carbon projects. This is a form of an economy that is very much in line with the heart-centered inherent rights and jurisdiction and responsibilities of stewardship that is all natural law-based. and the balance that needs to occur in the natural environment.
The benefit of own source revenue and the potential to share own source revenue starts with rights and then the capability to execute on the project. So this is a new capability that we're bringing to involve guardians in the actual tree planting, to involve sister nation members in the lab work, in the development, in the finance, in every step along the way.
The Indian Act never funded or sponsored lands and resource departments. So we're not rich in our communities with qualified technical staff and people. These are landscape level decision making that our communities were not allowed to do for the last 250 years across their territories. So that resurgence, that excitement of that opportunity, and of course we've got a lot of young people going to school. We got a lot of young people doing environmental sciences and climate studies and lawyers and business practitioners. And all they need to know is there's an opportunity to come home and fulfill these opportunities.
Our youth is a big part of getting land back and land stewardship. The projects Wahkohtowin has been doing, guiding the youth of how we need to protect our land, our water. For instance, tree planting. We're tree planting now, so in 7 generations, this will all be here.
To have community members and having guardians be able to come back and work in their home territories, so being able to plant trees with mycorrhizal fungi. There's no herbicides. They've been planted with good intention. We smudged the trees and thanked them and wished them well to grow. And I think that aligns with nature-based solutions, and Wahkohtowin is working together and doing the good things in a good way with guardians for them to see that there is opportunities for them to grow in their community and to be part of something special.
I think it's important that youth become involved in climate action because I feel like our world's really disconnected right now. We get the privilege of being out here after such destruction, and we get to be here to nurture and give prayers and smudge for the land and get back to that connection, interconnectedness.
As companies go out and harvest blocks, they're obligated to do reforestation. So our objective is to put inoculation on these seedlings that they're mandatory to be replanted by the companies, but we don't bear that cost. What we're doing is adding the mycorrhizae, which costs to produce, but it's part of a carbon project. So over 5, 10, 15 years, when you go to lay those claims, and if you get into the hundreds of millions of seedlings per year that are growing under these additional 29 to 14% increase in biomass per hectare, which relates to, turns into carbon in terms of tons of carbon per year, and that becomes a saleable commodity. The barrier right now, if you go across Canada, is BC has the atmospheric benefit sharing agreements. Ontario hasn't set up its own domestic provincial system, and they're not buying into the feds. So there is this improved forest management protocol on Crown land that's being discussed, or public lands, First Nations lands, territorial lands, where if we don't have this ABSA, this is the bump or the rub where they say you need to get one of those. You need to get the consent of the province to be able to go to market. That's in the voluntary system. If we were allowed to access the federal system, we may or may not need an ABSA. But the bottom line is we've been knocking on the provincial government's door for the last 3, 4, 5 years, and we get a lot of finger pointing. That's not my ministry's job. That's their ministry's job. That's not. And nobody's willing to sit down and actually go, you know what, let's pilot this, or let's explore this, or let's talk about this. Can't even get that to happen. So the clock is ticking on these projects where you want to make these claims and take them into the voluntary market, but you need to declare whether it's like a Vera methodology that you're claiming, and then you also need to answer that one question is, who has the land rights? Who is the land holder? And do you have a right to do this carbon project on that land? So again, Section 92, 1867, Indigenous Peoples' Traditional Territories, who supersedes who? And at the end of the day, this is where that missed opportunity can be. It's not just the sale of the carbon, it's the jobs at the community level that are associated with these to go out and do the monitoring and the verification. So there's the value added back into the nations that help, again, an issue of they don't have own source revenue to run their lands and resource departments. This creates a more domestic, localized economy, again, for them to further invest and grow their needs and interests.
And so investing in First Nations, investing with Indigenous communities, investing in and partnering with companies like Wahkohtowin helps build that capability. And that, again, as we talk about, the integration of Wahkohtowin's programs, that connects to the Youth Guardian Program that kids can join when they're 14. They do cultural activities, they do work out in the forest, they do surveys, they start to learn about plants and medicines, and this is their first time tree planting. So now we're talking about production. Now we're talking about something that they can do. You can also work in your home community and help with restoration and help with projects that allow for a better ecosystem. So that's really Wahkohtowin's philosophy with a lot of this, that even though we see trees all around us, it doesn't mean the forest is in a great state of health. And we're working hard to bring it back to a great state of health.